Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm Jeremy,
I'm Alan.
and you are officially tuned into the GG Dispatch each week on Tuesday, bright and early. We consolidate the week's biggest headlines and gaming news. Whether you're listening in on your commute, during your workout, or you just have us on in the background, we want to thank you for listening in. And speaking of thanks, another kind thank you to the folks at Audio Technica for providing the microphone that Alan uses, the AT2020 USB X. Whether you're just starting out on your content creator journey or you're a seasoned pro, Audio Technica has the products for you. Um, So, if you didn't tune in last week, first of all, I want to encourage you to go back and listen. We had our first indie spotlight with Tomas Pereira talking about Soul Quest. And Soul Quest will be coming to Kickstarter in about a month, like September 24th. I think he announced the date today. It was a cool little conversation that we had. And yeah, we're looking forward to the next one. Currently working behind the scenes, trying to get our next indie spotlight set up for y'all to listen and enjoy. Um, but other than that, Alan, how have you been? How has your week been? What did you do over the weekend? Hit me.
Yeah, so actually, I know we've been talking a lot about how, we have Game Pass, and oftentimes I kind of fall into like, FIFA or college football. They kind of going back to those to the usual, the tried and true, and Fortnite as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but
The
like I actually
old
like,
reliable. Yeah.
yeah. So, but this time I'm like, I want to kind of start to like break out a little bit and actually like get the most out of my Game Pass membership. So last week I actually ended up playing Moving Out 2, which I believe I told you about. And
Yep,
this week,
yep.
what I did it wasn't necessarily part of Game Pass. I thought it was going to be, but apparently it's not. It's Visions of Mana, the demo. So I got
Okay.
a chance to check that out. I've never played any of this like series before, so it was like my first time going into it. I feel like, man, like the where they dump you in the game, like they just throw so much information at you. I really would have preferred if it would have been a situation where it's like we'll let you play the first like hour or two of the game, and then you can kind of transfer over your progress when like the game releases. So that way you can start to learn the systems. You can start to learn everything at an easier pace. This felt like an info dump. Like it was just way too much, in my opinion, to really like enjoy the experience.
Hmm.
I do think that the game looks really nice. Like I know it feels like it's kind of like an evolution of sort of like the graphical style that I remember from the latest two entries that were like kind of recent. Um, but it still kind of has a little bit of like a generic anime vibe to it too.
Yeah, yeah,
Not sure how you're feeling on how it looks, but that's what I felt like to me. It's very bright, very colorful.
yeah.
It
It
does
it
bring a really big open world. Like I was surprised at how big it really was.
yeah,
Because
the various zones and everything. Yeah, they're a decent size. Yeah.
yeah, I like that they give you that. I can't remember the name. It's sort of like a dog that you can kind of like get on and just run around.
Yeah, I forgot the name too. The mounts that you get pretty early on in the demo. Yeah. That was handy to kind of speed things up on the overworld.
Yeah, for me the funnest part was just like I don't know if you noticed it or not, but like you can literally just run full blast and like the enemies are placed in a way where like you run into them and then you fight them. But like I would just bang into him with the dog and just keep running. Like I just ran him over and just kept going. To
Yeah.
me, that I had a lot of fun doing that. As dumb as it sounds, um, but yeah. So overall, in checking out this demo, I don't know if I would pay like probably because I'm pretty sure it's a $70 price tag on this one, right?
I think it's gonna be. Let me check and see how much it is because I think it is $70. I think it's gonna be a full price. Um,
Okay, then because there I would struggle to say like, yeah, I want to jump
60. It's
into it.
60. So it's not
60.
50.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not 70. It's 60. But still, yeah.
Yeah, like if it would have been going to Game Pass the way I thought it was going to, or because I don't think there was like some miscommunication or confusion about that situation. Like going to Game Pass, I would have definitely checked it out. But now at the 60, like I would wait a good amount. Like nothing about this demo was like, oh, I need to play this.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, and I had recent well, not recently, I guess, but Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is pretty close for me in my rear view, right? So like I had played that game just a couple of months back at this point, and it is a very similar vibe. Um, very similar kind of combat and stuff, except there's more flexibility in the various characters that you can play, and that sort of thing. And I think the overall combat was just it's a bit cleaner, it's a bit tighter. And so I had something like a parallel to Visions of Mana in terms of the combat and such that when I when I drew the line between them, I was like it's been done better. And then when it comes to like the world, right? Like it's been almost 20 years since a Mana title, like a canon Mana title has come out. And you can kind of tell like they're not familiar with it, and I think they stuck to those like kind of PS2 era um that PS2 era feel, right? So they didn't really like upcycle or upgrade the overall flow. Like again, the world is really big and it's cool looking and it's vibrant and colorful, but like you feel like if you just kind of like scratch the surface away, you're like, oh, it's a PS2 game, right? And so that's I think that's where I was kind of struggling. I feel like once, and actually that's a good point. I don't know if the actual demo or if the actual let me see here. Yeah, so they haven't released the reviews yet. So their embargo is probably either day of or maybe the day before or something. So I'm curious to see how it comes out, but I have a strong feeling this is going to land in the 70s. Um,
I was about to say, like, this is such a swimming in sevens game.
yeah, 100%. I think that that's ultimately what it's going to end up being, which I hope it doesn't hurt the franchise or the title too much. I do want this team to like be able to stay closer to the IP and for us to get more visions because like Grand Blue was a lot of fun. Like I enjoyed playing through Grand Blue, and I think kind of rekindling the Visions world is awesome. I just think that they had been away for too long and they didn't like bring everything into the new age. You know what I mean? Like they didn't really get very experimental with the combat or, you know, provide a unique experience that is distinctively for the Mana franchise. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that it doesn't, doesn't hurt too bad, but I'm guessing solidly in the sevens on this one. And I, it's funny because I thought this was going to be like a quiet period, right? And then Wukong came out of nowhere. Astrobot's coming out in a couple of weeks. And then, Zelda's coming out, I think, in November. And so, like, there are these games that are kind of queued up. And with the games that I have queued up and my backlog, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to play Visions. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see it being slotted into the time I want to spend playing video games. So, which is too bad because I was initially pretty excited for it. But after playing the demo, I'm like, I think it can pass on it. So, but for folks who have played the demo and enjoyed it, for folks who are fans of the Mana franchise, I hope that it's everything that you want it to be. So, um, I have been playing a lot of Wukong. I did put out my review. I haven't beaten the game yet, to be transparent, but I have put in almost, I want to say like 12 to 15 ish hours, and it's been awesome. It There are a couple of kind of glaring things that are keeping it from being like amazing. Um, the first, and I talked about both of them in the review. But the first one, well, actually, no, I only talked about one of them really. First one is invisible walls. It's really frustrating. They give you these really grand, really cool, beautiful set pieces. Like you're in the forest, you're in the mountains, you're in the cliff sides. You're doing all this thing. You're in this various biomes, right? And the detail is great, and the graphics look awesome. And you're exploring around. You go down this path, and you're like, "Oh, cool! There's like an open ridge over here." And you go to try and go there. No, you hit a wall. Not a wall. Like the game just won't let you go there. um, and it's one thing if you have like an open world game and you reach the outer perimeter, right? Like you go to Spider-Man, right? Like Spider-Man 2 is massive. And you're swinging around, you get to the very outer edges of where they'll allow you to go to New York, and you're just kind of like swinging along the outer edge, like you're against an invisible wall, right? And that's fine because you have the whole friggin' city to explore. But when you have these zones, I would much rather that they make those zones as open as possible. Like if you can't go there, put a wall, like put more like forestry or environment in your way to make it feel more natural and immersive. Don't just have like a rock that goes to the character's like knees, right? And be like, no, you can't go that way. And it's like, I could go that way, but you don't want to let me go that way. That's very different. So that's kind of a bummer. Um, and then the other thing that I've been discovering more as I kind of went further along in the game has been kind of inconsistency with like hit boxes, or at least hitbox strategy when it comes to the bosses. So like you'll encounter these huge bosses, and from boss to boss, the rules of engagement can be very different. Like one of them, it's like, okay, I should get up and under, in front of them, right? Another one, I should, oh, I guess I need to get them from the side, or I need to get to them from behind. So like it's kind of frustrating when you're charging up a heavy attack and you get like all your focus points into it and you just whiff because you don't strike where the hitbox says damage can land. You know what I mean? um so I encountered that a little bit more in some of the recent boss encounters I've had, um and that's been kind of frustrating. That being said, it has a very tight gameplay cycle, which I love. It's not punishing like Souls. So you keep your experience, you keep all your items, you keep all your money, you keep everything. Um, and the run back times are very short. So when you do encounter a boss, it's like, okay, I'm going to resurrect the shrine here, and I'm literally right outside. Like I can just run up and fight the boss again and again and again. So, like trying the same boss 20 times isn't as bad because, it's not taking you 5 minutes to 10 minutes each time to get back to the boss. You're just right there. So, um and, I'm a bit biased maybe because, I'm familiar with Journey to the West. I enjoy Legend of Sun Wukong, and, all that sort of stuff. And so, the inspirations obviously that I had for Dragon Ball and Sayuki and like other anime and manga titles, and kind of seeing that brought to life in this game is really cool. Um, and yeah, so I mean, I gave it a 9 out of 10 in my review, like because I do think it's like a really fun action game. I think by the time I get to the end, I'll probably go back and revise it to an 8. Um, just because again, those limitations on the environments and the some of the combat pain points are kind of chipping away a little bit at how great it could be. But all that being said, fantastic title. I would strongly recommend it to folks. The physical release should be coming soon. So if you're not wanting to like buy into the FOMO of the digital only copy, then by all means wait for the physical to arrive. I went for the digital because I couldn't wait. So and I'm usually an analog guy. You all know that. But I did buy into the digital and I've been having a blast with it so far. So that's been my gaming occupation lately. So um okay, let's go ahead and dive in. We've got 4 stories today, starting with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is headed to PS5 after its Xbox debut. This is from Tom Warren at The Verge. Microsoft and Bethesda are officially bringing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle to PS5 after it debuts first on Xbox. During Gamescom opening night live, Bethesda confirmed Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is coming to Xbox and PC first on December 9th before launching on PS5 in spring of 2025. The confirmation comes months after The Verge exclusively revealed that Microsoft was considering launching Indiana Jones and the Great Circle on PS5. I wrote in February that Bethesda's Jones game would have a rather short period of exclusivity, with Bethesda considering a PS5 launch month after the December 2024 launch on Xbox and PC. Sources familiar with Bethesda's plans tell me the company has been targeting an April 2025 release for Indiana Jones on the PS5, but this date could naturally shift depending on development schedules. The Indiana Jones and the Great Circle release on PS5 is part of a new multi-platform approach for certain Xbox games known internally as Project Latitude. Bethesda's new Doom: The Dark Ages game is also coming to PS5 in 2025, and Microsoft has already launched previous Xbox exclusive titles like Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded on PS5. Alan, the Xbox Project Latitude, the Xbox multi-platform strategy continues. What do we think?
I mean, it's kind of inevitable. We've spoken about it before about how they spent a lot of money, and not just on Activision, but Bethesda before that. They acquired a whole bunch of other smaller studios for that, including like Obsidian. I think Ninja Theory is what they're called, the ones who made the Senua games.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
they've been on a pretty good tear spending money wise. And I know I said this before, but like we all view as like, oh, Phil Spencer's a big deal, but within Microsoft, he's not. Within Microsoft, he's just like another head of a division. Um, so there was just an insane amount of pressure for him. Like, hey, even though you're not as big of a part of Microsoft as important here, you sucked up a ton billions of dollars that we could be putting towards AI or into Azure or whatever.
Right.
So that they're Satya Nadella is not going to care about like what Xbox loyal Xbox fans think about exclusivity. He's like, just make the most money possible as fast as possible. I need that money back, and
Where's
I
my
think that
money?
that's
I want my money. Give me my money.
exactly, give me my money. So that's it. That's to me, that's how he just rolls up to Phil's office. Or no, not like that. Phil rolls up to his office and then he tells him, "Give me my money."
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
but so I think that that's all part of this. Of like they're gonna whatever they feel is gonna do really well on PS5, they're gonna put it there. I think that what's driving a lot of the frustration is sort of like what is and isn't. Can you just tell us? You know, give us a reason why we should continue being, Xbox fans and owners of an Xbox. Or if not, we can just dump these and, get a PlayStation 5 or build our own PC or something like that. So I can see why fans of Xbox are frustrated. They put a lot of time, money into like that ecosystem. But I think that stuff like Indiana Jones that will do well multi-platform. I think they'll do it. I do think though that there will probably be certain titles that like they'll try and just say like let's try to keep that for our audience. Like a Halo, I think they would keep Halo on Xbox. Stuff that like screams Xbox, but like stuff that again like this is an acquisition from Bethesda. Like it's never been on Xbox before, so yeah, let's just put it on PS5. I think that's probably how it'll go moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. We've discussed, like how this will impact Xbox's like hardware strategy, right? Because, they have essentially in the next generation, they've talked about, the cloud-based console, mainly digital only, and that sort of thing.
The
Um,
handheld.
and the handheld, right? And so, and that I think, honestly, I think I'm beginning to lean more towards the idea of Xbox leaning into the handheld more than the home experience, or like a handheld plus docking station kind of deal, because you know I that I've been enjoying. That's how I've been enjoying my Steam Deck lately. And yes, I got my Xbox Series S, which I'm still having a lot of fun with, by the way. Reinstalled Liza P on there, played some of that. Um, Put a couple other games on there. I'm planning on playing some Forza with my nephew and that sort of thing. So it's cool because it's connecting me with some game communities and friends and family that I previously wasn't able to connect with because they don't have a PS5, for example. Um, but I think if they did do a handheld Xbox platform that could be docked at home as well, that would be a great kind of best of both worlds where you could access all the benefits of having the Game Pass, the day one games. You do the ultimate subscription. Maybe you make a bit more margin on those handhelds. You charge a bit more premium for the OLED, right? And I think there's really some traction there. I think there could definitely be some opportunity there. It's difficult to see how they have a long-term winning strategy with hardware if their first party titles are going to take this route, right? With Project Latitude. If they're going to bring those titles to other platforms within a month, 3 months, even like a year, it's difficult to say like, yes, I'm going to go out and buy a $400 or $500 box just to have the 1 month to 3 month exclusivity on this, when there's already so much that's being offered on the broader market, on Steam, on PS5, on in these other places, and Xbox wants to meet you there anyway. Anyway, I think that will be interesting to see how that evolves. But enough about that. We have a date and time for a double Nintendo Direct. This is from Dominic Bozniak at Game Rant. I feel pretty confident I pronounced that name correctly as well. I'm pretty proud of that. A double Nintendo Direct has been announced for tomorrow, August 27th, or today, August 27th, as you're listening. The upcoming event will mark its first ever occasion on which a Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase and Indie World are held on the same day. This announcement might not come as a surprise for the most attentive of fans, as rumors of big Nintendo events being planned for late summer have been circulating the internet for a while now. Most recently, Brazil based journalist Pedro Henrique Lutilipe reported that a Nintendo Direct is happening soon, in addition to claiming that there's an Indie World broadcast planned for September 2024. It would appear that Lipe's information was almost entirely correct, except that he missed the next Indie World's timing by a few days. Specifically, Nintendo just announced another Indie World presentation that's set to take place at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday, August 27th. The show will be immediately followed by a Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase, the company said, estimating that the two live streams will run for about 40 minutes combined. The double event will be the first ever occasion on which a partner showcase and Indie World have taken place back to back. The only other time that Nintendo held two separate game presentations on the same day was in 2020, when it paired a mini partner showcase with a Monster Hunter Nintendo Direct on September 17th. In contrast, both of tomorrow's shows will cover a variety of upcoming Switch games rather than focusing on a single title or franchise. The newly confirmed events won't have anything to do with the Switch 2, however, with the gaming giant saying that there will be no mention of the Nintendo Switch successor during either of these presentations. But the fact that the company decided to hold two broadcasts back to back indicates that it might be looking to get all of its upcoming game showcases out of the way in order to make room for the long awaited announcement of its next console. This is consistent with one report suggesting that the Switch 2 is planned to begin mass production by the end of September 2024, which implies its reveal will also happen no later than next month, so that Nintendo can avoid factory floor leaks spoiling its surprise. As for what fans can expect from the August 27th presentations, at least one unannounced title currently seems like a lock for the partner showcase, and that would be the Switch version of My Sims, which has already been released from three separate sources, including EA's own website, throughout August 2024, indicating that the announcement is imminent. Okay, what's coming to the Switch announcement, the Switch showcase? Alan, place your bets.
Oh man, to be honest, I have trouble even like, okay, what's going to come, what's going to be there. It'll be indie titles. I mean, it could be any number of them. To be
Well,
honest,
it's indie and
it's,
partner showcase, right? Because it's 20 minutes partner showcase and 20 minutes indie. So, like
you're right, you're
during
right.
the
But
during the
for
partner
partner, like
showcase, yeah, what are they
I
going
think
to do?
it's hard to tell which are from either side because like for indies, like the, to me, like the Nintendo Switch has been kind of like the machine for indies this year, and even for the last few years, to be honest. Like indies love going to the Switch, so like it could be any number of them. Like I genuinely have no idea what could show up tomorrow, and for the partner one, it's kind of like who's gonna want to put out like at the very tail end of the year and kind of be smushed in together with his indie one. So it kind of feels like could there really be a big announcement from a big publisher if they're kind of just smashing this all together?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
You feel
well,
like
of
if you
course,
had like some decent announcements from big partners, like it would be its own thing.
maybe, but okay. So we've got about 7 to 8 months before the Switch 2 presumably will be on the horizon, right? Like March, April ish of next year. And so I feel like this partner showcase and indie showcase is kind of their last opportunity to lay out the roadmap for the next 6 to 8 months. Um, and so I think they're going to go back through the calendar. They're going to remind people of games, right? They're going to. We'll probably get a quick look at Zelda. I don't think they're gonna beat that dead horse too much, but I think we're gonna get like a 1 to 2 minute, like, hey, just a reminder, we got Zelda coming, right? Um, and some other titles as well.
But would they
Maybe
include that in a showcase with their partners though? Would they not want to like overshadow their
no,
partners?
I don't think so. I don't think that's overshadowing. I think that they could still use that as sort of like an intermission, right? Like, so they'll have like maybe they'll have like a partner presentation, and then like the intermission kind of commercial, right? Can be, hey, remember coming up in November is Zelda, right? And then they'll have another partner, and then they'll be like, oh, don't forget about DK, like because that's coming out early next year as well. So I think that both the partner showcase and the indie are going to kind of fill out the calendar through when we can expect the Switch, right? Um, and yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. I don't think, well, maybe we'll get Silk Song. I think if we got Silk Song, the internet is going to go crazy. Um, that might pop up during the indie world, right? Um, I I don't know. I always hope for a Chrono Trigger remaster. Who knows? Um,
Man,
and
all I
yeah,
want is my Wind Waker HD remaster. Where is it, Nintendo?
yeah.
I'm still
Where's my
waiting.
Wind Waker remaster? Yeah, so I mean, I think those are, I've got just a couple things off the top of my head that could potentially come up, but in terms of the broader strategy, I can just see tomorrow basically being like, hey, Steam is on its last legs, right? It's a great console. You all have had a great time with it over the last 8 years. It was a must have during the pandemic. We sold zillions of units, right? People and playing Animal Crossing, etc. So they didn't go crazy during lockdown, and it's our longest running console ever as a company. And so already Steam has earned its flower, or sorry, Steam, the Switch has earned its flowers. Um, and this is just sort of its, I think it's its final curtain call, and this is the last batch of acts to expect before it fades off to stage left and the new Switch arrives. So that's what I'm expecting tomorrow. I'm hoping for some pleasant surprises. I know that in the previous showcase that they had, we weren't. I mean, and back in June when they were doing all the various gaming showcases, right? We didn't know what really to expect, and they knocked it out with Metroid Prime 4 and the Zelda reveal and Mario and Luigi brothership and like all other stuff. So I don't know how much gas they have left in the tank, but here's hoping for another pleasant surprise tomorrow.
But definitely no Nintendo Switch 2 news. So
No, no, and they make that very clear.
so
Yeah,
right now the prevailing wisdom is it gonna be in September or October when they do finally talk about the Switch 2?
I think
Allegedly.
I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be like early October. That's my guess.
Okay then. So like if we get to October and it's like middle of October, are you sweating then?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at how quickly they announced this direct. Like it's tomorrow. you know? Like I think if it's middle of October, if it's like Tuesday or Wednesday, I mean, if it's like a, Friday or something, I'm not sweating. But if it's like, because they can announce it on a Monday and then put it out on a Tuesday, right? And then here we are. The Switch 2 reveal is here. And I do think there's something valid, working for a high profile tech company that involves hardware and everything else. Like the factory floor leaks thing is real. And so I can totally, because I feel like a lot of people I've heard, and maybe we even had this conversation on this pod, right? But like the idea of, oh well, Nintendo will keep it all close to their chest, and we're not gonna get an announcement till like December or something like that. And I'm like, no freaking way. If they're producing this thing and they want to produce millions of them because they do not want to have to deal with inventory issues, then it's going to production very soon, and they do not want somebody to get ahead of them on this story, especially if the hardware changes are going to be as drastic as people are talking about, right? So, like in terms of design, the Joy Cons, the screen, whatever. So, I do think it'll be sooner rather than later. I think early October. It could potentially even be late September, but I'm shooting for early October. Um,
I don't think they do like a one day like thing though. Like even big companies, like for example, today Apple sent out their little thing about their event. and that's like a solid 10 days out. Like you can't just say, "Yeah, show up tomorrow for the Switch too." Like I
Well,
think you
Apple
got to give
okay,
people a little
but
bit more.
Apple does that. That's Apple's timeline, right? Apple always does that. That's always kind of the lead time for the event, and it's not the lead time for the event because anybody's expecting anything like unprecedented. Anybody on the street who follows Apple could tell you what to expect at the event in 10 days, right? It's the fall. It's gonna be the new phone. They're gonna tell you, they're gonna tease some new OS stuff, right? Like there's nothing really meaty
No,
there.
what I'm referring to though is like they want people to know, right? Like I don't know,
Sure.
they wouldn't just like, "Oh yeah, show up tomorrow, everybody."
I
You
feel
got to
like
give people a little bit of lead
Nintendo can
time.
do it though. I feel like Nintendo can do it though. I feel like when Nintendo says show up tomorrow at 7 a.m., people listen. Like I feel like the gaming community pretty much is like
Yeah, but this is a
immediately.
really busy time of the year for a lot of game journos, though. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? I don't
yeah.
know if you can just drop a one-day thing like that. People
Okay,
like you
maybe
got
2
PAX
days,
going
maybe 2
on,
days, maybe 2
you
days.
got a
2 or
lot
3.
of stuff going on. People go
Yeah,
flying out for like, demos and stuff.
yeah.
It's
There's
tough.
packs, packs and everything. Well, that's the other thing to think about too, Alan, right? Like I was just telling you before the pod, like I'm leaving for PAX on Thursday. So like a lot of game journos are like getting ready for PAX and Nintendo's like, "Oh, by the way, we've got a showcase tomorrow."
Yeah, that's
So
chaos, dude. That is
yeah,
chaotic. I don't know if
that's
they
fun.
want to be that like, yeah, just drop it tomorrow like a quick vid, you know?
Yeah, but don't worry. But they're also telling the journalists like, don't worry though, it's not the Switch 2, so you can just plan on like game reveal stuff. But anyway, we'll see. I do think they'll probably have a timeline when they do eventually announce the Switch 2 showcase. So I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. All right, we'll see what Nintendo decides to do. But until then, the Star Wars Outlaws reviews are out, unfortunately. So this we have a collection of reviews, a review roundup for all the scores for Ubisoft's latest open world adventure from Oisin Kunke uh, at VG247. Just kind of off the bat, PlayStation Universe gave it an 8 out of 10. Noisy Pixel gave it an 8 out of 10. Screen Rant gave it a 4 out of 5. Dexerto gave it a 4 out of 5. PC Gamer gave it a 73 out of 100. IGN gave it a 7. The Gamer gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Press Start gave it a 6 out of 10. VGC gave it a 3 out of 5. Eurogamer gave it a 2 out of 5. And I know the Kind of Funny Greg Miller gave it a 4 out of 10. Meh. Um, so, I mean, 8 at the top end, not bad, but that it goes all the way down to like 2/4. You know what I mean? Like out of 5/10. Um, it definitely is uh, not necessarily the home run that Star Wars fans may have been hoping for. It says, for the most part, Star Wars Outlaws will either click with you or not, depending on what you're after. In the mood to have a romp through the world of Red Dead Redemption, semi role playing as a Han Solo type character that doesn't exactly push the world of game development to new heights, but what it does do is a solid time. Sounds like it's one for you. But if you're a bit bored of the typical Ubisoft open world formula, maybe give this one a miss. So, um, Alan, were you interested in digging into Outlaws? Like, are you kind of surprised by some of these scores? What are your thoughts?
So like I'm not a big Star Wars person at all, so it's not like I was like, "Oh, I've got to play, Outlaws that's coming out."
Yeah,
But it
yeah,
did feel like it should have done at least a little bit more solidly, because like you said, some did give it like an 8 out of 10, and that's kind of what I
yeah.
expected
I
for the
was
most
expecting
part.
more eights. Yeah, like high sevens to low eights. Like I never expected it to be like, oh my god, best game since Knights of the Old Republic or anything like that. Like uh, there are very few games have that kind of buzz around it. But I still was hoping that it would do pretty well. But yeah,
Yeah, same. That's for me. That's what it was because I do remember seeing it like Summer Game Fest and a few other events, and it looked like it was solid. I thought that maybe if it goes on sale or on Game Pass, I would check it out. But yeah, just mostly surprised that it is such a wide kind of like it's a gulf really of how much people either love it or hate it. Um, I think it'll be more interesting once you get sort of like the general gamer getting a chance to get their hands on it. Because I do know that there's a pretty big the Venn diagram of gamers and Star Wars fans are at least half of the circle of each is are overlapping each other. It's a good amount. Um, so I do want to see what more, like what Star Wars fans themselves do have to say about it, and if the views of like just the average person playing is kind of similar to what we're seeing in the professional reviews.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, in Metacritic, I think right now it's at a 77. Um, so I do think that there is a bit of a gulf or a spread between players and their enjoyment of it. So yeah, we'll see how it continues to shake out. But that's basically how things have landed with Outlaws. And again, I was hoping for maybe a bit more in the age, just because it seemed like it had a cool premise, and the open world Ubisoft formula is a bit outplayed for some, but maybe with that Star Wars overlay and the Star Wars world, could potentially provide a bit of spice, a little bit of you know variation. But seems like it still fell a bit flat for folks. So we'll see how it
That to me
goes.
was the more surprising part. Is that that
Yeah.
little line of like it's just kind of the Ubisoft open world, but with Star Wars just painted over it. I thought they
Hmm.
would maybe try to do something a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it, and they don't. Yeah, they don't really. It's basically Red Dead Redemption with Star Wars. Like that's kind of how they describe it. Which again could sound like a great time, or could be like, no, I can miss this one. But anyways, let's talk about a game that people are excited about, which is the Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater remake. Or Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. The Delta is the remake title. This is from Matt Purslow at IGN. He says it's a fully faithful remake, right down to the frequent loading screens. Few games truly deserve the remake treatment as much as Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, arguably the best stealth action game of its generation. Back in 2004, it pushed the PlayStation 2 to its very limits, so much so that the hardware occasionally weighed down its ambitions. 20 years later, a complete remake from Konami using the power of modern consoles has the potential to unlock the full, uncompromised vision of the game's original creators. Instead, this new Kojima less Metal Gear Solid Delta seems more like a very shiny HD remaster than the elegant remake it could have been. It's an admittedly beautiful nostalgia trip, but almost faithful to a fault. In a recent hands-on demonstration, I was able to play through Metal Gear Solid Delta's virtuous mission, a complete recreation of the prologue built into in Unreal Engine 5. It looks every bit as fantastic as you'd hope, particularly when it comes to character models. Faces and clothing are a real highlight. The jungle is the true star of the show, though, with modern lighting techniques helping showcase the graphical overhaul to every blade of grass, every pool of mud, and every writhing python. If you're a Metal Gear veteran, you'll know that the roughly 90-minute duration of the Virtuous mission is dominated by cutscenes and codec calls. It's not the ideal section to test drive any changes that Konami has made, visuals aside, particularly since Delta uses the same dialogue audio as the original, and thus all cinematics are frame for frame and line by line identical. But if this slice is anything to go by, any gameplay changes are minimal. Trees stand exactly where they stood. Same enemies patrol the same routes. And there are frequent loading screens to divide the jungle into small self-contained maps. Um, the article goes on from here, but there were a handful of journalists who covered the preview. It sounds like Matt didn't have as much of a good time with it because he was expecting maybe a little bit more of an upscale when it comes to the overall flow of the mission. That there were others who felt like very excited that it was so faithful to the original with the upscaled graphics, including the loading screens, etc. But there are quality of life improvements that have been added into the game as well. So when you do close quarters combat, for example, sometime way back in 2004, you would go to GameFAQs or whatever, or you'd try to find your reference and be like, okay, how do I do like the judo throw, and like how do I do the disarm and remove the gun and take out the ammo and all this other stuff. But when you go into a CQC, in the game, it will now remind you, kind of like with a pretty elegant overlay on the screen, of what you can do once you have an enemy in your grasp, which is pretty awesome. Um, and then also, like when you're like hanging from a bridge, for example, it will remind you, hey, you can aim and shoot with your other hand while you're hanging here. Here's how you can do that, so that you can kind of seamlessly integrate those other gameplay elements, um, and you know not forget all the cool things that you can do as Snake. So so yeah, I mean, I've largely been hearing good things. And I'm a huge Metal Gear fan. Metal Gear Solid 3 absolutely was a you know a game changer. I feel like, as a big fan of Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, once 3 arrived and you got a chance to meet, like, the boss, and do all this other cool stuff with Snake, and kind of explore more of the background and the lore of that character, and these various organizations. It was awesome. And of course, I stand by the fact that the Snake Eater theme song is probably one of the best theme songs, and 100% belongs at the beginning of any good Bond film. Um, so yeah, I'm personally really excited. I can't wait for Delta to arrive, and I'm gonna spend some time with it, and take that journey again. But I
Yeah,
don't
so
know
like
for you.
I never played this at all. The But I
Ooh,
have watched like a full playthrough, and kind of funny was playing through the old school Metal Gears.
mm,
Um and I'm like, it felt old when they were playing it. I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm gonna have fun playing that. So
sure.
I'm happy to hear that this sort of remaster effort is taking some of these quality of life steps to make it better, because game design has changed a lot in 20 years, and that it's still being extremely faithful to the original, because I do would like the a similar experience to what I saw as kind of funny was playing through it.
Hmm.
So like I'm actually more excited about it now, because it's been, kind of hit or miss on details, and they haven't released too much information about it. This is kind of the first, I think, like real hands on that other journalists have been able to get their hand that other journalists have been able to do,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
give their impressions, and give us really good information on what it's shaping up. So I'm happy with what I've heard so far, and I'm actually really excited about it now, and I think it'll definitely be like a day one pickup for me.
Yeah, definitely. I'm, again, as I said, I'm very excited for it. And I think it'll be a great trip down memory lane with those, again, those upscaled graphics and everything. And definitely worthwhile to revisit. And yeah, watching the trailer, just seeing like the detail on Snake's face, like the mud caked in, like the sweat and like everything, the furrowed brow and the detail of the clothing and everything. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna get sucked into this game for sure, and it's gonna be awesome. Um, all right. Well, I don't think we have any deals to speak of today, so
No, unfortunately, no. I mean, like, we're about 2 months out from Black Friday, so I don't know if like we're going to be getting any like crazy deals between now and then. To be honest.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Steam still, Steam's always doing their thing, so make sure you're always keeping an eye on Steam. I think they had a pretty solid Monster Hunter deal not too long ago. But yeah, in terms of like hardware or anything like that, Black Friday will be here before you know it. It's already almost September, Alan. God, can't believe it.
Yep.
Can't believe it. All right. Well, until next time, I'm Jeremy.
I'm Alan.
Keep gaming, everybody.
See ya.